Good evening, Kat Matlock here at Free Body for Tuesdays Live. And my hope for these live talks and shares is that you get some really helpful information about how to take care of your body well so that you can get out of pain and live your life the way you want to. So tonight's talk is about why crossing your legs might actually be causing your hip issues. Why crossing your legs might actually be causing your hip issues. So here's the deal. In our lives, we get into certain positions, right? Which then become embedded in our nervous system as postures. So we have a position that we kind of hang out in regularly, and then that becomes our posture. And when it becomes our posture, it means that our nervous system and our receptors through our body are setting that as like, okay, this is centered, this is normal. However, it might set something that's actually dysfunctional. And over time, what happens is it becomes most comfortable. It becomes most comfortable to be in that sort of dysfunctional position. But in the meantime, it's actually wreaking havoc on your body. The number one, okay, maybe number one and two cause of problems in the body is how we sit. And it's either slouching or even worse, slouching with our legs crossed. So one of the things you've heard me say through all the videos is that when you are when you're feeling pain in your body, it's most often caused by the muscles that are being pulled too long. Okay, when you're feeling pain in your body, it's most often caused by the muscles that are being pulled too long. So when you cross your legs, your inner thigh muscles, the adductors, get short and tight. And the outer hip muscles, the abductors, the muscles that pull your legs away from each other, lift your leg out to the side, those muscles get pulled long and tight. Long and tight. Remember that, please, because tight muscles in our bodies are often the long ones. They're not the ones that are kind of in there. Like people will come to me with a lot of glute pain, outer hip issues, weakness in the hips, sciatica, piriformis syndrome, all kinds of things. And it's often the muscles that are pulled too long. So in this scenario, when you cross your legs, you're shortening those inner thighs, those adductors. And there's a big adductor magnus that has a very strong pull on the femur. And it will just keep drawing your femur in because your body over time says, oh, this is center, this is normal, this is how I sit, this is comfortable. So what will happen is as you sit with your legs uncrossed, which I'm going to encourage you to do, I want you to practice uncrossing your legs as often as possible. Put alarms on your phone, put sticky notes up, because your brain is going to tell you, the proprioceptors, your nervous system is going to say, hey, this is weird. That's comfortable. So you have to retrain your body to not cross your legs habitually. Okay, so what ends up happening over time, two things. One is that these inner thighs get short and tight. And then you start having any of those hip symptoms, iliotibial band pain, sciatica, blah, 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 all the things that can go wrong in the hips, SI joint dysfunction, like I talked about last week. And so what happens over time is that those outer hip muscles are getting pulled on, and it makes muscles that get pulled on contract kind of constantly to try to pull you back until it gets embedded in your nervous system. Then they're just like, oh my gosh, whatever. Right? They're going to try to pull you back. And what ends up happening is that tension gets locked in, and then your brain doesn't even think about it. It just becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger ache in your body. So I had a client come in today for a session, and she, I give people a sheet that the circle, X, whatever, mark where in your body you're feeling pain. And she just circled her whole right butt cheek and put an X in the middle. She's like, right there, my glute wakes me up at night. I said, watch my video from last week, first of all. And second of all, she was sitting with her legs crossed. And I said, well, first, uncross your legs. Uncross your legs. Okay. And I had to remind her several times in just the few minutes that we spoke before we actually started her session today, because it gets so deeply embedded, so ingrained in the nervous system. Now, the hip muscles, gluteus minimus and medius on the outer hip, their job is I call them the rotator cuff of the hip. They stabilize the femur in the socket. So every time you cross your legs, your knee portion of the femur draws in and the hip portion pushes out. So there are sensory receptors filling that joint capsule and all around the ligaments and tendons in that area going, oh, the femur is being pushed out. We need to contract gluteus minimus and medius to try to push that femur back in the socket. And what happens over time is that gluteus and minimus and medius just become exhausted. They're so tired of it. And so they lock in tension. In my world, that's trigger points. They lock in trigger points. Now, again, the funny thing about trigger points is that you don't always feel the pain where the tension is. So it's very common for gluteus minimus right on the side of the hip. Gluteus medius holds its tension around that top rim of the pelvis. It's very common for them to, as I said last week, refer deep in the glute. And over time will weaken those muscles and cause the hip to give out. So you might have to sit down to pull your pants up on that side because you don't really trust that that hip is going to hold your weight up. Now, again, a problem I see over and over again is that folks will just go right to that spot where it's aching in the glute or aching in the hip and work on it with a ball. And that's all well and good, except that it's not actually, it probably feels good, but it's not actually going to fix the problem. Even if you know where the trigger points live in these muscles and you're pushing on them and it alleviates the pain for a little while, if you don't address the opposite muscle groups, the inner thighs, then you're not going to get anywhere. So I'm going to give you one quick movement break before we wrap it up. If you are having hip issues, sciatica-like symptoms, deep ache in the glute, SI joint dysfunction, all the things, you are going to want to do a wide angle side to side over and over again throughout your day. And the thing is, what a lot of folks do is they get stuck in a stretch, right? They get stuck in a stretch. Oh, it feels good. I want to stretch. And stretching is okay. You know, I ran yoga studios for 13 years. I'm not going to tell you not to stretch, but what I am going to tell you is to incorporate movement, because muscles that are stuck long, even muscles that are stuck short, but especially muscles that are stuck long, are dehydrated. And when tissues get dehydrated and the fascia wrapper around the muscles is pulled taut around that tissue, it begins to block communication with the surrounding tissues, and it blocks nervous system communication, and it blocks blood supply. Tissues can't repair without blood supply. Tissues can't heal without blood supply. Tissues can't feel good without blood supply. So another reason to not just stretch the areas that you feel are tight, because tight often means long, but you want to move, right? So take movement breaks throughout your day. And if you're having hip issues, take movement breaks that open the inner thighs, like that wide angle moving side to side. That is going to be much more beneficial to you than just doing like side leg lifts. Your PT might give you, tell you to, lift the leg out to the side. Okay, that's great. But we also want to just do some movement to really open those inner thighs regularly throughout the day. So if you're having hip issues and sciatica, whatever it is that's your hip problem, give that a try. Stop crossing your legs and do that wide angle side to side movement. And then let me know, please let me know how that helps you to feel better, to sleep better, not waking up with that deep ache in your butt, and your hips will feel stronger. Get a ball, roll around on a foam roller or a ball, release the inner thighs first. It's even more important to release the inner thighs than to release the glutes or the QL in the low back that might even be causing your pain. Because once you release what's pulling on the muscle will have a better chance to let go and relax, and everybody's happy. So you're going to stop crossing your legs, you're going to do wide angle side to side, and you're going to really work on opening those inner thighs so that you can give your hips a break. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Kat Matlock here at Free Body in Asheville. If you're a massage therapist, I'm going to be teaching live classes again starting in August. Woo woo! Live massage therapy classes for continuing education. And you just keep tuning into this channel and this page. Like us, do all the things. Check out the website freebodynow.com for current offerings in self-care and for massage therapy.